Imagine drilling into your own backyard soil, minding your business, when suddenly a whirlwind of entitlement storms in, flip-flops smacking like thunderclaps, demanding you stop because your land somehow offends the sacred community vibe. That's how it started for me, Alex Rivera, the guy everyone whispered about as the reclusive troublemaker in Willow Creek Estates. Rumors spread by the very HOA tyrants who painted me as the villain for daring to plant a vegetable garden once without their holy stamp of approval. But this time, as I wiped the dirt from my hands and faced down Patricia Langford, the HOA president with her pearl necklace tighter than her grip on power, I knew silence wasn't an option. Her petty crusade over my fence was about to unravel a web of lies that would make even the most jaded neighbor pop popcorn. The drill bit was spinning, chewing through the earth like it had a personal grudge against the ground, when that telltale slap 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 echoed from the sidewalk. I didn't need to look up to know who it was. Patricia Langford, self-anointed queen of Willow Creek. Her flip-flops announcing her arrival like a bad omen. Alex Rivera, what in the name of neighborhood harmony do you think you're doing? She shrilled, her voice pitching high enough to scare off the birds from the retention pond nearby. I straightened up, the power auger humming in my grip, sweat trickling down my back under the midday sun. Building a fence, Patricia? I replied flatly, not bothering to hide the edge in my tone. The rumors about me had been circulating for months. Whispers that I was antisocial, non-compliant, even shady, because I'd skipped a few block parties and once questioned the HOA's insane rule about mailbox colors. I'd bitten my tongue, observed from afar, but this patch of land was mine, confirmed by a fresh survey I'd paid good money for after dogs kept turning my yard into their personal toilet. On your own? Without submitting a formal request to the board. She planted her hands on her hips, her manicured nails gleaming like tiny weapons. Her face, caked in makeup that screamed, trying too hard, twisted into that signature look of faux concern mixed with unbridled judgment. This is a shared green area, Alex. We have standards to maintain the aesthetic cohesion of Willow Creek. I set the auger down with a thud, wiping my forehead with the back of my arm. No, it's not shared, Pat. I had the county survey it last month. See those stakes? I pointed to the bright yellow markers fluttering in the breeze, each one hammered in by a professional who double-checked the plat lines. That's my property line. Your green space ends right there, where the weeds start looking intentional. She huffed, her overprocessed blonde bob bouncing as she stomped closer, her flip-flops now grinding into the gravel like she owned that too. You can't just unilaterally decide to erect structures willy-nilly. This community thrives on rules that prevent eyesores like this. She waved at the half-dug hole as if it were a crime scene. Up close, her perfume hit me like a wall, floral and overpowering. The kind that said, I'm important enough to assault your senses. Rules that don't apply to my own backyard. I shot back, crossing my arms. You're not claiming my land just so your yoga group can have a shortcut to the pond, are you? Because that sounds less like community and more like entitlement. Her eyes narrowed to slits, and she yanked out her phone with the flair of someone summoning reinforcements. You've left me no choice, Alex. This is a clear violation of HOA Bylaws Section 7.2, unauthorized modifications to communal vistas. Tap, tap, tap went her fingers, her lips pursed in that smug way that made you want to laugh or scream. Couldn't help but chuckle. You're calling the cops? Over a fence on my property? That's next level petty, even for you. She didn't respond, just held the phone to her ear, her voice dropping to a dramatic whisper as she reported the emergency. 30 minutes later, the sheriff's cruiser rolled up, tires crunching on the curb, and out stepped Deputy Harlan, a burly guy with a mustache that looked like it had seen too many bad decisions. Alex Rivera? He asked, adjusting his belt as he sauntered over, eyeing the scene with mild amusement. That's me, I said, pulling the rolled-up survey from my toolbox and handing it over. Patricia charged forward like a bull in pearls, her flip-flops forgotten in her haste. Officer, he's erecting an illegal barrier on community property without approval. It's disrupting the entire neighborhood's flow. Deputy Harlan tilted his head, scanning the document. That true, son? Take a look, I said, pointing to the stakes. Official survey, county stamped. That land's mine down to the inch. He unfolded the paper, glanced at the markers, then back at me. A grin cracked his face, and he burst out laughing. A deep, belly-shaking guffaw that echoed off the houses. "Ma'am," he said, turning to Patricia, whose face was turning a shade of red that clashed with her lipstick. "You dialed 911 because a man's putting up a fence on his own dirt? This is about upholding standards," she sputtered, her hands flailing. "Community integrity." "No, ma'am," Harlan drawled, still chuckling. "This here's a civil matter for your little rulebook club, not law enforcement. Unless you've got a judge's order hidden in that purse. He's free to build a moat if he wants." Her jaw hit the pavement harder than her flip-flops ever could. Harlan handed me back the survey, tipped his hat, and strolled back to his car, muttering, "Folks these days." I picked up the auger and got back to work, but I could feel her glare boring into my back. This wasn't over. Patricia didn't lose gracefully. By Saturday, the fence was up. Solid cedar panels, straight as an arrow along the survey line, blocking off the unofficial dog parade route through my yard. I added a gate out of sheer politeness, but locked it tight. No more accidental trespassers leaving gifts on my grass. Sunday morning, coffee in hand, I spotted the HOA posse from my porch. A cluster of board members huddled like conspirators at the fence's edge. Patricia wasn't there, but her lapdog VP, Marcus Hale, kept shooting dirty looks my way, his bald head shining under the sun like a beacon of resentment. I waved cheerfully and went inside, ignoring the whispers. Tuesday brought the first salvo. A crisp envelope in my mailbox, no stamp, just the Willow Creek HOA seal stamped like a royal decree. Inside, on thick, pretentious paper that screamed, "We're better than you," was the notice. Violation of Section 8.4. Disruption of visual harmony and aesthetic guidelines. Remove the unauthorized structure within 7 days or incur escalating fines. No nod to the survey, no legal backing, just flowery BS about fostering communal beauty. I smirked, filing it away, and dialed my old friend Lena, a city planner in the next town over who dealt with her share of HOA horror stories. "Sounds like classic bluffing," she said after I emailed her the scan. "Vague enough to scare most folks. If they escalate, hit M with a county complaint. Keep me posted." Escalate they did. Thursday, a guy in a neon vest wandered my yard like he owned it, clipboard in hand. I stepped out. "Can I help you?" "HOA contractor," he mumbled, not looking up. "Documenting alterations to shared space." "You're trespassing on private property," I said coolly. "Told this was common area," he grunted, jotting notes. "By who?" "The president with a god complex." I pulled out my laminated survey copy and thrust it at him. He scanned it, blinked hard, and crossed out his scribbles. This changes stuff. I'll note it as a mix-up." "You'll note it as trespassing," I corrected, my voice steady. "And get off my land now." He slunk away, mumbling excuses, and that night I filed online. County zoning complaint, attachments galore, survey, photos, HOA letter. CC'd the state AG's HOA watchdog for good measure. Patience was my weapon. I'd watched Patricia's games long enough to know her next play. Sure enough, weekend mail brought the hammer. $850 in administrative penalties, daily accruals, lien threats. I was rereading it in my garage when my neighbor, retired mechanic Tom, limped over with his own envelope. "You too?" he asked, waving it. "For what?" I inquired. "My old toolbox shed from 12. Never bothered anyone till now." I showed him my docs. He whistled. "They know this is bogus, right?" "They're banking on me folding," I said. "Picked the wrong mark." Tom chuckled. "Damn straight." By Monday, the retaliation wave hit. 5 neighbors fined for nonsense. A swing set, flower pots, a bird feeder. Petty power plays to isolate me. Time to flip the script. That evening, I blasted an email to every resident in Willow Creek. Attachments proving my fence's legitimacy. Links to complaint forms, AG contacts. Signed off. "If they target me for offense, what's next for you? A fine for breathing wrong?" Responses flooded in outrage, support. By afternoon, 25 complaints filed. A group demanded a full HOA audit. That's when the dirt surfaced. Beautification fees collected for years, but landscapers unpaid for months. Expenses? A $6,500 advisory payout to a firm owned by Patricia's brother-in-law. Jackpot. I forwarded it all to the county investigator on my case. 2 days later, call confirming notifications to Patricia and the treasurer for misconduct probe. County enforcers en route for books review. Next morning, moving truck at Patricia's. Boxes flying out like rats from a sinking ship. Marcus showed up, pasty-faced, waving awkwardly. I ignored, he approached anyway. Alex, this spiraled, he stammered, hands pocketed. Let's negotiate. Refund my fake fine? I asked dryly. Silence. Thought not, I said, slamming the door. Special meeting that week. Packed house. Pressure cooker. Patricia resigned amid booze. Marcus followed. New interim board. Actual humans. First acts. Refund all sham fines. Amend bylaws for evidence-based penalties. Neutral oversight. I skipped running. My fence stood tall, a silent sentinel. Willow Creek breathed easier, no more rulebook reign of terror. The first interim meeting hit like a revelation. Crammed into the community center with chairs spilling into aisles. Neighbors perched on windowsills like it was the event of the year. I hung back, observing as always, while the new chair, Elena Vasquez, a no-nonsense accountant who'd moved in last year, banged a makeshift gavel. A coffee mug on the table to quiet the buzz. Folks, we're here for transparency, she started, her voice cutting through like a knife. The investigation's ongoing, but tonight's about airing it out. Floor's open. Up jumped a guy from Elm Street, folder in hand. Name's Diego Ramirez. Got fined $450 for my kid's lemonade stand. Commercial activity, they called it. But I traced the payment. It vanished into some off-book account. Murmurs swelled. Elena peered over her specs. Proof. He slapped down bank slips. A lady in row 2 bolted up. Us too. Fined for holiday lights. Check cashed, but ledger's clean. The dam burst. Story after story, vanishing fines, ghost payments. Then Sarah, the neighborhood bookkeeper, dropped her bomb. $11,000 in miscellaneous consulting. No receipts, wired to shells. But the nuke came from old Mr. Harlan, no relation to the deputy, a former IRS guy with a binder thicker than a phone book. I've audited worse, but this? He passed copies. Patricia, Marcus, and Treasurer Lydia Voss set up a fake LLC under a P.O. box. Contracts awarded, work never done. Cash pocketed. Registered in Lydia's sister's name. Straight-up fraud. I tipped the DA. The room exploded. Gasps, shouts, a few cheers. Elena hammered for order. We're freezing funds, calling third-party audit. If DA charges, insurance covers reimbursements. All fines under review. Post-meeting, parking lot huddles dissected letters like war plans. Diego clapped my shoulder. Your fence lit the fuse, man. Without you pushing, we'd still be sheep. Just wanted privacy. I quipped. Ended up with justice. Dawn next day. Unmarked cars at Patricia's. Investigators hauling boxes. By lunch, Marcus's luxury sedan towed. Lydia's door sealed with forensic audit tape. DA's office called. Investigator Mia Torres wanted my statement, survey, 911 farce, timeline. In her cubicle, I laid it out. Patterns clear, she said. Fake violations to skim fines into personal pots. Wire fraud. Felonies brewing. What's next? Pressed. Arraignments soon. Accounts frozen. Assets seized if judge greenlights. Thursday news ticker. Willow Creek HOA chiefs indicted in embezzlement ring. Footage of them shuffling from court. Faces like thunder. Patricia's pearls askew. Marcus avoiding cameras. Lydia stone cold. Neighborhood shifted overnight. Interim board permanent via landslide. Elena spearheaded reforms. Digital ledgers open to all photo-proof enforcements, elected watchdogs, spending cap sans votes. They revived the newsletter. Recipes, events, not edicts. A teen coded a resident app for polls. Summer picnic by the pond. Once Patricia's elite zone. Saw me toting lemonade. Harlan distributing audit recaps with glee. No fence talk. Just community. Dusk. Tom ambled over with burgers. News say 75% restitution. Not shabby for stands and lights. I grinned. He eyed my fence. Still up. Reminder, I said. He nodded. Tiny spark, massive blaze. I surveyed the laughter. Kids chasing fireflies. Grills smoking. Yeah, all from claiming what's mine. A month post-picnic, Elena phoned. Voice taut. Alex, private chat needed. Her bungalow smelled of fresh coffee. Table laden with docs. Not as chair, she said, sliding an envelope. As a friend. Inside. Invoice for Phantom Pond cleanup. $32,000. Services like aquatic restoration that never happened. Next. Biz Reg for EcoFlow Solutions. Contact? Lydia's brother. Another shell, I said. Worse, tied to state grant for green initiatives. Forged apps, siphoned public dough. Federal territory, I murmured. I've alerted auditors, but bureaucracy's slow. Heard you've got DA ties. Sort of. Home, I rang Mia. Torres here, expected your call. Layers deep. I spilled the grant fraud. Pause. Misusing public funds? Brings in state crimes unit, fast track. 2 weeks. Dawn raid on Lydia's. Agents in vests, warrants flying, hauling tech and files. Lydia and bro escorted out, defeated. News by noon. HOA scandal escalates to grant forgery probe. Grant folks confirmed. Signatures traced from obsolete forms, watermark mismatch, amateur hour. Mia evening call. Injunction filed, seize assets, freeze budgets touched. Neighborhood impact? State custodian temps in rebuild clean. Granted days later. State team commandeered HOA office. Under review, sign up. Residents? Grateful notes, baked goods for Elena. State hearing, invited testimonies. My turn. Started with a fence dispute. Unearthed theft veiled as leadership. They preyed on powerlessness. But we united, documented, fought. Applause thundered. Months dragged, but verdict slammed. Patricia, Marcus, Lydia, her bro. Indicted on fraud, forgery, misappropriation. Judge's hammer. Not mismanagement, predatory betrayal of trust. Prison terms, restitutions, asset sales back to HOA. Custodians lingered 6 months. Bylaws overhauled. Annual audits. Rotating panels with residents. Elena bowed out next election. Leadership? Nah, just neighborly watchfulness. Her yard got a bench. Plaque to questioners who persisted. Willow Creek bloomed honest. Bike sans color codes. Gardens free, newsletter pet pics and birthdays. My fence? Ignored icon. Afternoon, Tom paused by it. Dismantle? Nope, memento. He smirked. Kept tyrants out. Welded us in. Gazing at chalk art. Barbecues. Chatter. Cedar did good. But here's the kicker. Was that fence really the villain? Or just the mirror reflecting the real monsters in power? You tell me. In a world of petty rules, is standing your ground rebellion or righteousness?